reflecting on today's scriptures, particularly the gospel, I couldn't help but call to mind the song by the Beatles, "Love is All You Need." It seems this is exactly what Jesus is saying to us today, that all we need is love, love of God and love of others, and that both are indispensable. Sadly, many of us today are guilty of a bad faith, which either claims to love God or treat people despicably, or the humanist illusory that claims to love people but have no belief in, love for, or relationship whatsoever with God. I think the first thrust of our reflection is to remind ourselves that the love of God and the love of others is like the two faces of a coin. The evangelist in 1 John chapter 4 verse 20 says that anyone who says, "I love God," and hates his fellow is a liar. For how can one who does not love the person whom he sees claim to truly love God whom he has never seen? And it's almost the same sentiments Jesus was trying to reiterate in Matthew chapter 6 verse 14 when he was teaching us the Our Father. He said, "If we forgive others their trespasses against us from our hearts, the Lord will forgive us our trespasses too." In other words, the measure we give to people is the measure God will give to us. How can we desire or deserve any less? Now, although this is Christianity simplified or properly summarized, to love God and to love others, and the scribe couldn't agree any less, because Jesus was quoting the Shema, the core of the Torah, from Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 4 and Leviticus chapter 19 verse 18, which is nothing new, at least to a Jew. Yet it poses further question. What does it really mean to love God? Especially today, where the love of God is countercultural. Many of us are even ashamed or afraid to admit or to identify as Christians. True practicing Catholics and not some watered down alley cat, once in a blue moon kind. What does it mean to love God? Jesus himself has answered this question. He told us in John chapter 14 verse 15, "If you love me, keep my commandments." And I am not surprised that the whole of today's scriptures are all about the commandments of God. The question the scribe asked Jesus was, which is the greatest commandment of the law? Which exactly is the greatest commandment of the law? And in the first reading, we see Moses, encouraging the people to keep the commandments of God. Dear friends, in spite of our dislike for laws and regulations, the laws of God are indispensable. No one can claim to love God who disregards his commandments. Another difficulty arising from Jesus' response is, do we really love God in the way and manner Jesus highlighted today? With all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. In other words, loving God above everything else, above ourselves, above our families, our businesses, and whatever else we hold dear. Do we love God? Can we love God in that manner? I, for one, cannot boast that I am able to love God this way, 24/7. But God wants that central and pride of place in our lives. Nothing else is good enough. Nothing else should get in the way. It reminds me of what Jesus will say in Matthew chapter 10, verse 37, that he who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. So you see that this greatest commandment, which initially sounded deceptively simple, is in practice the work of a lifetime. And same is the second part of the commandment, to love others as we love ourselves. That's the yardstick. As we love ourselves. In other words, we seek justice for ourselves. We must desire that justice be done for others. The same respect, the same love, and the same care we accord to ourselves must be accorded to others. And Jesus will repeat this in Matthew chapter 7, verse 12 in a different form when he said, "Do to no one what you would not want them do to you." Dear friends, we ask for this singular grace to love in this way and in this manner that will not just bring us close to the kingdom, not far from the kingdom, but in the kingdom.